All coffee plants belong to the Rubiaceae family, the fourth largest flowering plant family with around 13,500 species. The Coffea species are the source of all the coffee we consume, but they are not the same. In the world, the two main types of coffee are Arabica, which comprises nearly 70% of the global coffee production, and Robusta, accounting for the other 30%. Robusta grows in altitudes up to 1,200 meters above sea level, and Arabica grows from 1,500 upwards. Colombia's mountainous regions with high altitudes and constant rains are perfect to grow Arabica. This particular coffee plant has its ancestors in the region now known as Ethiopia. During the 15th century, Turkish markets took coffee through the Arabic Peninsula, where it got its name, and entered it into Europe. In the 18th century, Jesuit priests from the Netherlands journeyed Arabica plants to South America. It is said that these priests used them as atonement for the parishioners' sins, and every time someone asked for forgiveness and had to repent, they had to plant coffee. This widely spread the plant through the regions that are now Venezuela and Colombia. Arabica found in Colombia the perfect ecosystem to cultivate some of its main varieties, such as Caturro, Geisha, Red and Yellow Bourbon, and Maragogipe. During the 1980s, a disease called Roya spread throughout South America, targeting a large part of the coffee crops. Colombian coffee producers figured out that by making a hybrid between Arabica and Robusta, they could produce coffee that was resistant to the Roya fungi, and new varieties were born, like Tabi and Colombia's main coffee-producing plant, Castillo. A good coffee producer knows how to cultivate and choose from these varieties and achieve the best flavors and aromas from each one of them. Coffee production has been globalized to the point where coffee can be found in any supermarket. This commodity coffee is achieved by collecting lower quality coffee beans, which are then sold at a larger volume with a lower price. In this case, producers are not interested in the flavors and aromas of the cup, but rather in reaching the widest audience possible. But coffee culture has grown, returning to a more artisanal approach. Furthermore, producers specialize in a type of coffee in order to deeply exploit its qualities, and are careful to choose which variety of coffee and fermentation type are the best for the final product. To achieve specialty category, every process from the growing to the roasting is made with utmost care to ensure that the coffee's quality is the highest possible. Castillo is largely cultivated throughout Colombia's coffee-making regions due to its resistance to diseases and having a larger range of altitudes in which it can be cultivated, ranging from 1,380 to 1,820 meters above sea level. It evokes aromas of dry fruit and caramel, and a taste of cocoa, nuts, and fine wood. Caturro does not produce as much cherries, but it is also easily cultivated in several regions and altitudes, ranging from 1,410 to 1,710 meters above sea level. It brings aromas of caramel and spices and flavors of cocoa, nuts, and yellow fruits. Geisha. This exotic and highly specialized variety usually sells for a higher price than other coffees. It is also cultivated at higher altitudes, starting at 1,780 meters above sea level. When produced for high-intensity flavors, its aromas evoke yellow fruits and honey, and has a taste of citric fruits and black tea. Maragogipe coffee plants, originally from Brazil, are cultivated at an even higher altitude, at 1,780 to 1,810 meters above sea level. Its high-intensity aromas include orange, vanilla, and white chocolate, and has a taste of raisins, figs, and plums. Bourbon produces 30% more cherries than other types, making it very attractive to producers. It exists in two types, red and yellow. Red bourbon brings aromas of grapes, blackberries, and oak, and flavors of apple, honey, and plums. It is cultivated at similar altitudes as geisha. Yellow bourbon is cultivated at a higher altitude than its red counterpart. When mature, the cherry turns into a yellow color. It evokes aromas of yellow fruits and nuts and flavors of toasted almonds, fresh butter, and citrics. Tabia has a bigger seed than most plants, similar to Castillo. Their seeds are larger than 80% of other crops. Its excellent quality and resistance to Roya disease has made it a great option for producers, who cultivate around 3,000 plants per acre. Its aromas include flowers and tea and has flavors of citrus and sweets. The chosen fermentation type will emphasize different attributes in the resulting cup. Coffee producers can choose from three types: wet, dry, and honey. Wet or wash fermentation is one of the most common options. During this method, the seeds are separated from the pulp through the process of washing in high quantities of water before going through the drying process. In terms of a taste profile, it results in a cleaner cup of coffee. It accentuates the more fruital aspects of the seed. Dry fermentation, also called natural, is the oldest type and has been in use for hundreds of years. The coffee cherries are dried to the sun without removing the skin and pulp, which takes 6 to 8 weeks. More of the characteristics of the cherry are embedded in the coffee seed, resulting in a heavier body. Honey fermentation is a midpoint between the other two. Cherries have their skin removed, but their pulp remains attached. As they dry, the pulp achieves a honey-looking appearance and texture. This method brings a bolder coffee with a higher acidity to it, and it's quickly gaining popularity with modern producers. How coffee is prepared is as important for the final taste as its origins. Until the 19th century, coffee was prepared by filtering it through several methods, mainly separated into two types: immersion and gravity. Gravity-related preparations depend on paper filters and gravity itself to separate the coffee oils. This results in a more dynamic taste, where the qualities of coffee are enhanced in a somewhat lighter body. Immersion, like the one used by a French press, gives the beverage a more balanced taste. As it is not put through a paper filter, more of the coffee's essential oils remain in the brewed coffee. providing a fuller body and a stronger flavor and aroma. These filtering methods are still used today, but at the end of the 19th century, new inventions changed everything. Coffee was a huge business in Europe, with cafés flourishing across the continent. But coffee brewing was a slow process, and, as it's still the case today, customers often had to wait for their brew. Seeing an opportunity, inventors across Europe began to explore ways of using steam machines to reduce brewing time. In 1884, the invention of the espresso machine brought to the consumers a new way of tasting coffee. A jet of hot water at 88 to 93 degrees Celsius passes under pressure through the ground coffee, resulting in an immediate preparation of the espresso. What used to take several minutes to prepare now took seconds, and many different preparations were born from this moment. An espresso drink consists of 30 milliliters of brewed coffee with a very strong taste. If the taste is too strong, a macchiato can be prepared by adding milk foam to an espresso. The famous cappuccino mixes equal parts of espresso, steamed milk, and milk foam. It got its name from the Capuchin monks who wore hoods with a color very similar to the prepared coffee. Cafe latte, which means milk coffee, is 1 part espresso and 2 parts steamed milk. It became widely popularized in America during the 1980s. Today, these and many other preparations are common in any coffee shop. Even though big producers have taken a more generic approach towards the selling and consumption of coffee, it continues to evolve in its specialty. As throughout its history, coffee farmers, producers, brewers, and consumers have always found a way to go back to its roots and find the best way to enjoy it to its fullest.